Hello, welcome to Indie Tutorials. My name is Guillermo and I would like to thank the Patreon supporting this channel. Hello everyone. The first step will be to download the 3D Action RPG demo. So navigate to the ORK Framework, then Guide Tutorials, and you will see the Start 3D Action RPG. So click on download the complete project and click on download complete tutorial project. I have already done so. So it's here in the desktop. So I will just extract it. And once extracted, I'm going to copy in this path the bat file I created to speed up, open up Unity projects. And edit the path of the project. And double click on project launch bat file. Of course, you can just add the folder to the Unity launcher hub, but I found this approach be way faster. So now it's asking me to upgrade the editor in this case because I'm using Unity 2023.29. So I will click on continue and this will take a little bit, so I will just pause the video until it's finished. Okay, so we are back after loading the game. The next step is to make sure that we have everything set up. So let's just select the scene and hit play to see that everything works. And you can see here we have some missing exception about scripts. So if we go back to the page, ORK Framework page, it says that if you run into missing script reference warnings or don't see any UI, please re-import these two folders. So let's do so. Let me go back, and in the first place let's create here an empty scene. I like always to have an empty scene. So empty. And then we need to re-import Magnum folder. So let's click on re-import. I'm going to pause the video again. Alright, and the next one is here in the tutorials assets. We have the created folder. So right click on that one and click on re-import. There we go. So now let's give it another try. And the warnings are gone and we have a playable game. Alright, Ctrl P to stop playing. And now what we're going to do is to make sure that our game builds. So as always, I like to select an empty scene for that. And let's go to build settings. The scene is already selected and click on build. Let's choose here a path. So I will create a new folder and call it builds. and build there the game. I will pause the video until it's finished. Okay, so the game built, and one thing that I want you to make or pay attention is to the this folder and the size. And if we were to double click in the executable, so we should have the game playing as normal. I do have it on my other screen, but trust me, it is working. Okay, so let me minimize this screen, and also this one, we can close it. The next step is to create, I will create another scene here, and we'll call it bootstrap or loader. And if I go back to the build settings, I will remove the main scene and put the loader instead. Okay, so we don't want the main scene to be in the build settings. After doing so, what we want to do is to import the addressables system. So we go to the Windows menu, then we click on the package manager, let it load, and then we find the addressables, and the verified one is 1.18. If we click on see other versions, you can see that is way a new version, way above 118. I don't know why Unity always delays the verified check or flag, but anyways, click on the last one and click on install. Once installed, we can close the package manager and then go to Window, Asset Management, Addressables, and click on Groups. So here we can see that we have to create a new setting, so create addressable settings and click on that button. This will create for us a new addressable settings, so we can find it by clicking here in Tools, Inspect System Settings, or also going to Window, Asset Management, Addressables, Settings. And there is a lot of things that we are going to be explaining during this mini series about the addressables, but the most important thing that we want to do is to enable the send profiler events, so we can debug the memory allocation. Also, we want to optimize catalog size, and we need to click here in the build remote catalog. Okay, so this will allow us to upload the asset bundle to a remote location. Could be the cloud, could be OneDrive, Google, but this is important to check the build remote catalog. Later on we're going to setting up this path here, but this is for the configuration file. Let me see if I miss anything else. I think not. Okay, so now if we went here in the default local group, we can double click on it, or just by clicking that we see that we have this new settings in the inspector, and we need to make sure that update restriction is set to can change post release. Otherwise, if we change anything in the editor and we want to update the clients or the game, without having to build a full executable. That won't be possible. So we have cannot change post release or can change post release. So we need to check the first one. The next thing is to change here in build and load path. Right now it's set to local, so let's change it to remote. Okay, by default is asking me or setting my local IP address, but we can leave it as it is for now. And I won't be revisiting these settings right now, later on probably, so let's keep it like that. The next step is going back here into Addressables group window, and in the play mode script we need to change to use existing build Windows. Well, Windows is the build that we are setting, of course, for Windows, PC Windows. Okay. Otherwise, if we leave it as fastest, it will use always the local asset bundle instead of the remote one. Okay, so right now we don't have anything here in the local group. So we can now is selecting the scenes folder. We have the scene that comes with the demo, and we either can drag drop it into this group or just check here in addressable. So this one is up to you. I'm just going to click here in this check addressable, and you will see now that if I expand the default local group, now we have the Unity scene. What I'm going to do is to rename this long name that is set up by default to something more meaningful. So I will click on simplify addressable name. Again, scene is not something that I like, so I will change it to main game. And then we have here a drop down for labels. Right now we have only one label by default, which is set to default. I'm just going to click on that one, and after doing so I will go to build, new build, default build script. So now that it has completed, if we go to this new addressable assets data folder that was created when we started configuring or setting up the addressables system, we see this Windows, which is the platform we are building the game for, and we have this addressables content state bin file, which contains a description of the asset bundle that we have. Also, if we go back to the folder that we built the game in the first place, and we go one level up, outside the asset folder, we see here this server data folder with a standalone Windows 64 with a bunch of new files. And this one contains the information about the scene, for example. You can see by the size of it. Okay, so what we can do now is, since we created this loader scene, let's click on it to load it. Let's create now a script to actually load our main scene. Okay, so let's create an empty game object and let's call it loader, and here in the asset folder let's create a new folder, scripts, and inside this folder let's create a new mono behavior script. Let's call it loader again. Let Unity compile, assign the script to the game object, and open the script in your IDE of choice. Okay, so what we want to do here is to add a using statement for Unity Engine dot addressables, addressable assets, and in the main mono behavior we want to enable the start method. And from the start method, what we want to do is to initialize the addressables. If we don't do that, it will do it automatically, but it's always better to have control of what is happening in your game. So let's call addressables initialize async. If you choose the standard one, you will see that it's deprecated, so forget about it. So initialize async, and we click dot to get a list of other objects and events that we can register to. So let's create this completed event plus equals and get the suggestion from the Visual Studio. So loader completed, I would like to call it instead, if I can, initialize completed. And after the addressables system is initialized, then we can call our new scene or the main game scene. So for that one, we call addressables load scene. Again, we have a deprecated one and we want to choose the asynchronous one, and we need to pass here the object key that we set, and this is the name that we put here, main game. So let's type it here, main game. And again, we want to register this asynchronous task to an event to get notified when it completed. So in this case, I'm going to call this, instead of loader, let's call it load scene completed. And here, for now, we can just do debug log. So scene loaded, something like that. Click the save the changes in the script and go back to Unity and let it compile. So we have added already the script. Let me close this window for now, save the scene and click on play. And we got an error here because we don't have the local host set up, so we need to change the local path, sorry, the remote path in that case, to make it work. Okay, so what we want to do is go to Window, Asset Management, Addressables, and click on Hosting. And here let's create a new one, so local hosting, and click enable. If we now go to again to the asset management, addressables, settings, let me check. Well, we have already this local IP address that is going to be used to simulate a server. So after enable the hosting, we need to go back to Window, Asset Management, Addressables, Groups, and make sure that we create a new build. So it will include these new settings that we already did. Okay. So let me just put this window here, and let's click on play. Now we can see that in the logs in the console we have connection to the local server and the scene was loaded using addressables. Okay. So now that we can see that it's working, let me just close it up And to look at the profiler, we need to go to Window, Asset Management again, Addressables, and then Event Viewer. So let me ping this panel here, and it's already running. So if I click on play again, you will see that in this case we have initialization and we have the scene which just was loaded using addressables. Okay. Okay, so let me stop the play mode, and now after we have setting up the loader that loads the main game window or scene, we can create a new build. So let's go to build settings and click on build. Let's select the same path as before. Or we pause the video on meanwhile. Okay, so now the game build. So if we go back to the build folder, you will see now that the data folder now is just 35 megabytes. So it successfully decreases the executable size, and now is looking for the scene data in this server data folder, a standalone window, and this is where we have our asset bundle. Okay, so let me just now click on the executable. I decrease the size of the windows to be able to drag it to this monitor. So this is the loader scene, and this is the main scene. So it successfully loaded from the asset bundles created by the addressable system. Okay, so now let's just make a quick test by changing something here in the scene and make a new build of addressables to propagate this change or to persist this change in the new game without having to build a full game. Okay, so let's open up the game scene and let's see. Let's check it out where the LN is spawned. So I click on spawn point F to focus on that game object. Alright, so let me just take this alien bush and put it here. Save the scene, go back to the loader scene, and then from the addressables group, click on build, not new build, click on update a previous build. You will be prompted to select this bin file that I mentioned before. So let's go to here into assets, addressables data asset, Windows, and click on content state bin and click on open. This will generate a new set of files inside our build folder. That actually contains this new change that we did. So let it finish. I will pause the video. Okay, so it has finished, and there is our new file containing the information about the change in the scene. So if we were to go into our server, sorry, the 3D Action RPG folder builds, and just click on the executable again, and there is the bush. bush. So we got an upgraded or update in the scene without having to build a full executable. So we successfully implemented the first steps of using addressables with Unity and ORK Framework. So on the next video we're going to build a nice loading screen or progress bar to avoid having this blank loader. And on the next mini series in this addressables implementation, we are going to actually be implementing addressables with the ORK Framework components. So thank you for watching and supporting the channel, and see you on the next video.